Good evening, folks, and a pleasant one to you. It's getting a little warmer here in New England. Things might be looking good. There's a few good things that happened this week, couple of bad things, whatever. We can't keep track. What's going on here? They passed a stimulus bill, so I think we're gonna get like $8, something like that. So that'll be great. That'll pay the rent. That'll get rid of the credit card bills. I'm still fucking working off all that debt I got in Texas just a week ago. Didn't really go anywhere. What else? What else do we got? Joe Biden's dog bit a Secret Service agent, so they made the decision to put a bullet in both dogs' head. Only one dog bit the Secret Service agent, but they just simply could not risk having those problem dogs. So they made the right decision there. A lot of people who were hyping up Joe Biden to be a dog-owning president. Very silent about the dog attacks. But, of course, you may have heard the misinformation that they've been sent to a camp in Maryland or something. I think anyone who's got more than 2 brain cells knows that's code for euthanasia. So goodbye to those dogs. I mean, they would have had to live a weird life. They probably overheard a lot of strange things. So this episode will be dedicated to Joe Biden's dogs who are now in puppy heaven. Moment of silence. We're drinking kombucha. It's gone flat. Who gives a shit anymore? I feel like every time I get a carbonated beverage, it goes flat faster than it used to. Ugh. A lot of vocal fuck-ups today, folks. A lot of vocal fuck-ups. Hopefully I can get through it without, accidentally divulging nuclear codes or something like that. It doesn't matter, if things get better, if things get worse, because I have it on good authority. I don't know if you heard this, but in 6 short years, the year 2027, you will be able to take a vacation to space. Space hotel, folks. They're opening a space hotel. To be clear, not a hotel on the moon or Mars or anything like that, just a hotel in orbit, basically the same shape as the ISS, like a big donut, but like a big donut. Like Ritz-Carlton big, a JW Marriott-sized donut floating in the stratosphere. And I wonder how many years it will take. Maybe if I start collecting points now on the credit card, I'll have enough points for a free stay at the space hotel.
You get space radiation.
Yeah. Now, of course, when I first heard about the space hotel, my brain went one specific place. Space hotel to open by 2027. That was the headline. Obviously sounds suspect. And I would go as far to say that anyone who thinks that a space hotel is going to open in 2027 is pretty stupid. You might even say that they are too stupid to even live. I mean, just given how many rockets did we even send to space in the past 10 years? Like 3?
Several.
And now they're going to be, yes, but probably we're not really at the volume where you could fill an entire hotel with people. Or put a giant hotel into orbit, I guess, would also be a concern. I believe the ISS was small enough that they kind of just launched it as one thing and just kind of let it, spin around. This thing would be the size of a few buildings. So I'm not sure how they're supposed to just put the entire thing into space and get it working. I guess they'd have to do it piecemeal. Not too many buildings. I guess, how big is it? Is a rocket ship the size of a building?
Like one of the giant NASA ones?
Yes, but most of that doesn't even make it all the way. So it's kind of a moot point. Most of it's just like fuel cells, right? That get ditched.
Yeah. Better question. Why, if it's a hotel, why would you need a hotel in outer space? What do you have, a business meet in Mars somewhere or the moon?
Well, you wouldn't even be that close to Mars or the moon. You'd just kind of be just outside of Earth.
Still take you 2 days to get to the moon, but...
Well, yeah, it only takes you, I think, only a couple of minutes to leave Earth, and then the ISS is probably not that far once the rocket gets into space. I'm not sure exactly on the details. I should have done my research, and I'm not exactly sure. I would imagine since this space hotel is going to be significantly larger than the ISS due to science, it would have to then be farther out, like further away from Earth, so that because the orbit needs to be wider. Or maybe not. I don't know. We'll look into it later. We'll get you more on the space hotel, which, again, I feel like you'd have to be pretty dumb to believe that they're coming up with a space hotel. And then I saw who published this article. Well, none other than CNN, the cable news network, folks. CNN. My grandmother watches CNN. She's getting old. She knows how to turn the TV on and off, but she doesn't know how to do anything else. So like she'll sit and watch CNN and it'll be them like putting lies into her head. They'll be like, Bernie Sanders is talking about raising classes on the middle class. Ugh, man, a lot of vocal fucking.
It's the good weather. It's poisoning his brain.
You turn on CNN, it's that jamoke Chris Cuomo who pretended to have COVID and then everyone forgot about it. And he's like, Bernie Sanders is saying that he's going to raise taxes on the middle class for his health care plan. And all that kind of stuff. What, that one guy fucking said that it was Kristallnacht when Bernie Sanders won a primary. And then, of course, it's never the establishment's fault. It's always like, we're fighting the good fight because we don't like Trump and we don't like Republicans. But any sort of war corporation, we're going to figure out exactly how to handle this. And they do this very, very sick psychological thing where they try to always end on a high note. But the thing that they put before the high note is like something horrible. So, they'll be trying to explain why it's a good idea to bomb Syria, and they'll be like, a truckload of Iranians have raided a school and killed all of the school children in a small village in Syria. And now, Angela brought her dog into the studio. Ho, 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 ho. Well, isn't that a lovely pup? Like, I mean, my dad watches like the regular news, local news, and all old people do that. I was staying with my uncle in Florida when we were stuck. I don't understand why people do this. It is a horrible way to consume media. Like, as bad as social media is with the constant influx and the overstimulation, at least you can be like, oh, that seems interesting. I'm going to read about that. Whereas the news handpicks stuff and they say bullshit like, a mugger with a knife and a face tattoo could be in your neighborhood. More on this at 10. And I'm like, well, I'm probably just going to Google mugger, face tattoo, CNN news, and then someone has already like shared a Reddit link to the story. It's very irrelevant. It's completely behind the curve. You could just you just watch the headlines, and then if you think a headline's interesting, you can just go look at it. But you don't even need to watch the headlines because you can just go on fucking Google News or Twitter or fucking anything and find the headlines. So this whole thing is really irrelevant. And then I asked my dad, why are they talking about all these people dying of COVID? And then, they're doing a goofy bit about a Thanksgiving meal. And he's like, well, they got to end on something light. Like, if you read news normal, like on your phone, or, maybe if you don't want to do the screen time, you can go with the classic newspaper. No harm in that. I had a coworker, very smart guy. He would always crack a fresh New York Times every single day. Got the paper. Didn't like to get his news from a screen. And he said he had some lie about how that actually supports the business more. I don't really think that's true. I mean, they have to then make paper, so that doesn't seem right at all. But you don't get the ads, you don't get all the bullshit. So anyways, when you're done reading the news, you can just flip to the sports section or the entertainment section, or just take out your phone and watch porn. Like, you don't need the news to force a lighthearted note into the end of a story about school children getting bombed. Horrible. We have to go over there just to change the channel to Mary Tyler Moore, because we're worried we're going to burn a fucking hole in her brain. She's old as shit. They're saying, now there's 5 COVIDs. Now there's 8 COVIDs. It's like the COVIDs and the genders are at war to how many more there can be of each other.
See, it's a unicorn.
That was a fucking hacky joke. I can do better than that. Fucking gender jokes. I'm a little bitch is what I am. I should be canceled. We'll get to all that later, but... And now CNN, after years of misrepresenting the truth, after placating the corporate elites, after placating the warmongers, after taking the hopes of any sort of progressive candidate to make change, and always diverting a strong effort into keeping those kind of things down, to explaining why the minimum wage needs to see at $7.15, to explaining why healthcare should always cost a lot of money. They claim that by 2027, you will be able to go to the airport, I guess? The spaceport? It'll either be the airport or a similar building. You'll get on a rocket, and for a small fee, I'm sure it'll be really small, you can take a rocket ship to outer space and, hang out upside down for a few days, I guess, and then come back. That's what they're saying. That's what they're going with. I was like, how do you people are already sus. And I mean, people who are, spend a lot of money at Lululemon and Bloomingdale's and place like that, well-to-do white women or not that well-to-do white women who see well-to-do white women and want to emulate their energy because they think that if they start believing all the things they believe, they'll somehow have the success and the physical attributes of them. It's very sad to see. Those are the kind of people that think like CNN, yeah, they don't like Trump. He's loud. We got to get rid of him, you know? Pussy power hat. That's what I think. So here's the thing, is that CNN and Fox News are about equally as bad. Now, obviously, Fox News is worse because it's pretty hard to be worse than Fox News. The bar is so unrealistically high. But they are the same ballpark compared to like a legitimate publication. Like, the only thing Fox News would have to do to bring itself down and become equal with CNN is just like one time, Tucker Carlson would have to get out there and be like, folks, tonight I'd like to talk about black people. It turns out a lot of them are pretty nice. If there's one moving into your neighborhood, you don't really have a reason to be scared. Or maybe they could have like Sean Hannity go up there and be like, all right, our next guest is an expert on the Holocaust, which, by the way, I think it happened and it was as bad as they say it was. And then Fox News would just be like equal with CNN. That's really the only difference between the two, is that Fox News is unwilling to make those kind of statements. They would be about at the level. They'd be like, and now here's why we need U.S. soldiers defending a heroin field in Afghanistan. It's for our domestic security. Building 7 was exploded, yes. When the Twin Towers went down, there was a building, Building 7. No one was inside of it. It fell. Nothing hit it. Yeah. But what? Would you prefer it if there were people inside of it? Would you prefer it if a plane hit it and a plane full of people died? No. So why are you complaining that a building with no one inside of it fell? That could be Chris Cuomo or that could be Tucker Carlson. I feel like both of them would argue that point. That's how similar I think those networks are. And it's upsetting to me that people don't view CNN as a propaganda engine. I mean, the fact that if you ever click a link to a article, so you see article and you're like, okay, I'm just going to skim this, maybe read it, at least get the quotes out, whatever. You don't need to see whatever journalistic fucking narrative they've thrown in there. They have that feature where like the video, sometimes not even related to the article you're reading, will auto play with the volume on. That is also a feature. The only other place where you see that is porn sites. So that is exactly the kind of sentimentality they're trying to play. They're trying to hijack the reward systems in the brain that pornography sites use to trick you into clicking on stuff. Even BuzzFeed wouldn't do that. Even BuzzFeed, they might autoplay the video, but they will not turn the volume on by default because that's bad. That's rude, honestly. Very rude. And I'm upset by it, and they shouldn't be allowed to do it. Because then I would say, like, someone sends me something from CNN, I got to fucking mute everything before I click on it because they're going to start blah. And they never have anything interesting to say. They always talk slow as shit. You can just read the article. I mean, the article is just a couple of quotes, and some guy's like, well, here's how. It's never like, actually, if you read something from the New York Times, and they're not perfect, or the Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, if you read something from what is generally considered reputable sources of news, it's generally, World News, Reuters, generally in the tone of just journalistic. They're just kind of trying to give you the facts one by one. They've arranged them in a way that they think is forming a narrative that's cohesive without injecting any sort of personal narrative. If you read an article from CNN, even the ones that aren't labeled opinion are like, well, look who's up to his old tricks again. It's old Mitch McConnell. And then they'll do like an actual quote of what he said. And they'll be like, well, Mitch, why don't you and Bernie Sanders go burn down another American flag? Because people who voted for Hillary or what? Oh, they don't even remember these days. Ugh, people are still standing Hillary after all this. It's like, what? She did like at a National Women's Day event with Nancy Pelosi and Chrissy Teigen. So this is like the best we can do. We're going to get the 3 best representatives of women. Is people who are 95%, 2 people who are 95%, plastic, and 1 person who is 100% reptilian DNA from another dimension. That's how we're going to represent the great woman of America, I guess. That's what we're doing. Someone was complaining on National Women's Day, men will be like, Happy National Women's Day to my sister and my mom only. And it's like, yeah, that's called curation, okay? Not all of you are great. We don't need to be celebrating all of you. Sorry. I'm not saying all men are great. I mean, it just goes without saying. But good thing. I'm glad that we didn't post an episode on National Women's Day. It would have really distracted from the narrative. Space Hotel. So anyways, I got to thinking, what if CNN is throwing red herrings and they know that we know they're fake? So they're going to report on the Space Hotel now because actually it is real, and then they know that we will not be able to ask questions about it because we're going to assume it's fake, and then when it's too late, every single rich person is going to be doing a mass exodus from the world into the Space Hotel. Like, I don't know. It kind of feels like Elysium a little bit. Because, first of all, like, the planet is dying. I was just in Texas the other day. It was like 0 degrees. It's not supposed to happen. They kept calling it unprecedented. It was precedented by the fact that the climate is changing rapidly. We haven't even had a spring here in Massachusetts for like 5 years. It just goes winter, 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 and then all of a sudden it's 90 degrees, 70-degree humidity. I was in Florida a few years back. A bunch of strawberry farmers were jumping off of bridges because the strawberries were dying, feeding themselves to alligators. Very sad. We can't sustain, guys. We're not doing anything really to stop this. A lot of people still genuinely believe that like green energy is like gay or something. So I don't know what you're supposed to do. We're going to have to run like a, big dick solar panel. I don't really know how you sell that. I guess they could just make solar panels look cool.
You mean phallic shape?
Well, the problem with phallic shape is that I don't think that they would really absorb that much sun if they were in phallic shapes. I think they kind of have to be like wide. So we're really in a box here. I don't know.
So they need to be chode size.
I guess so. We could do chodes. We do 360, but then that's not very masculine. Then you're just going to say everyone with solar panels is a chode. So, you see, this is why the eggheads over at, Elon Musk's house are, they're locked in his basement trying to figure out solutions to these problems. This is why they haven't solved them yet. Because we're trying to do it here, and we're running into all sorts of issues. But little suspect that Elon Musk Tesla SpaceX is currently the only company in the world that is known to have possession of rockets that can actually like go up and then come back down without the entire fucking thing getting destroyed, which, let's face it, pretty dumb system that we came up with in the 60s. It's like, we're going to have rockets. Oh, it's like, that kind of looks a little bit like an airplane. It's like, yeah, the whole thing just gets fucking destroyed. It's like they're not reusable at all. Just goes into the ocean. And then we wonder why it's getting cold in Florida and Texas randomly. We can't piece it together. We've been throwing rocket parts into the Gulf of Mexico. Although, again, we haven't been doing it that much. So, they're in Cape Canaveral, whatever. Elon Musk has not acknowledged the existence of the Space Hotel, which you'd think he probably would do, since, again, in order to actually send, in 6 fucking years? Really? In order to send rockets up and shuttle people back and forth, you do need the rockets, and he appears to be the only person who has them, the only corporate entity that has them. The U.S. government technically doesn't even have rockets that can do that. So maybe there's a secret CIA psyop. I highly doubt that the NASA or the CIA or the Space Force that Trump founded, and who knows what they're actually up to, what that is a cover for, what that could be. I highly doubt that they're getting into hospitality. That doesn't say, the U.S. government has, first of all, never been involved with hospitality. The closest we ever came is Trump being president and, making people stay at his resorts and luxury resorts all the time. I don't really think that they're going to invest money building rockets to help the hotel company. Doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem right. But maybe there's a little bit going on under the hood. The Manhattan Project, that was all like literally underground in some bunker. Maybe they're building rockets because maybe it's not as much of a hotel as it is the rich people are just going to kind of fuck off and leave us all here to die and waste away in our own filth while they're up, drinking margaritas at 0 gravity, swing dancing. I'm sure that there'd probably be like, what if there was a 0 gravity pool? I guess there would be no point to having a zero because you could just 0 gravity. You could just kind of swim around like you're in a pool.
It would be the 0 gravity water sphere.
Water sphere. There we go. Now we're thinking. from what I read about the Space Hotel and its proposed design, so it's like a giant donut, right? Like the ISS. So, or you could also think like 2001: A Space Odyssey, where or Interstellar, I guess, where the outside rim is a bunch of rooms. So most of the actual guest rooms will be the outside rim, and it'll be spinning fast enough that it mirrors the gravity of Earth. So when you're just like in your room, there's gravity or the illusion of gravity. And I think there will be other things like, a lot of the bars, cocktail bars, restaurants, they'll probably be on that outer rim where there's gravity, and there will be little elevators that run people around. And then there's also going to be attractions and spaces that are closer to the center, because the closer you get to the center, the less gravity there is. And if you're in the very center, there's, the illusion of zero gravity. And they've done really cool experiments on the ISS with this. They figured out that you can actually grow human retinas in zero gravity, that you're just not able to grow in a lab with gravity on Earth, or microgravity they want you to call it, because it's not technically zero, but some cool stuff there. So we perfected this technology, not perfected, but we've made great strides in this technology. And I think it would actually be very on brand. It would be very American, sort of the manifest destiny of America, to take this technology and say, hey, I know your child was born with a rare type of blindness that we might be able to cure with a little bit more research, but why don't a bunch of billionaires just play water polo in the stratosphere? Like, why not? Let's do that instead. Fucking blind kid? Yeah, send him to India. Let's just play water polo. Let's play pool. I think maybe they will use that technology, I imagine, for the elites who are up there to, eventually, once Earth has become just an uninhabitable planet and all of us regular people have died off, and now the wealthy and the elite are just living on this artificial spinning space hotel in, the sky, hovering around the Earth that once was, which is now probably kind of gone a sort of delish brown. The ocean's probably a green, maybe even hues of dark purple in there. And they're just spinning around, having cocktails, turning the music up. One guy who got hired to do like a weekend gig there, but he didn't know it was all going to go to shit. And now he's just like casually playing the piano, taking requests. Oh, you want to hear Party in the USA? I can do that one. And he's like, he knows that if he's ever insubordinate, he's just getting shot the fuck out into the stratosphere. So I imagine there will be a lab. They will be growing a human woman. They will perfect the technology where as soon as the tube opens up, it's just a ripe 14 to 16-year-old woman. And, all these elites, they do crazy stuff with that. They drink their spinal fluid. They do a bunch of sexual stuff. We don't need to get into it. Let's not be lewd. And then when they're done, they can just shoot them into space and make another one in the lab. I think that's the attraction that CNN has neglected to mention will be on the Space Hotel. Because again, this Space Hotel is just going to be rich people buying one or two more generations before they run out of fuel. And, maybe they'll last until the sun burns out. You've heard of partying until the sun comes up. Have you ever heard of partying until the sun expands and destroys everything in the vicinity of the Earth?
Not yet, but we can make that.
That might be. I mean, we won't fucking be there.
Next frontier people.
I love this way they say in the article. If you're dreaming of future travels while stuck at home during the pandemic, why fantasize about the beaches of Bali or the canals of Venice when vacationing in space could be in your future? Yeah, why fantasize about going to an exotic, warm place where you can hang out and put your feet in the sand when you could be trapped in a metal tube where if you go outside, you die immediately?
Horribly.
Yeah, and if someone forgets to fucking UV protect the window in your room, you just burn alive in your room. You smell your own burning, rotting flesh while you die. It's like, didn't you want sunlight? How about you go to a place where sunlight will kill you in seconds? What about some nice shade? What do you go to a place where shade will kill you in seconds? Let's do that. Fuck Bali. Let's go to space. And, I mean, here's the thing. So I keep saying it's going to be rich people. I'm talking, of course, generational wealth. Like, no one who was born poor or middle class and like became wealthy during their lifetime is going to trust a big floating orb in the sky. I don't think. I feel like this is for people who are generationally passed down oil companies, big military profiteers, entertainment tycoons, and all those. Their kids of just billionaires. Generations been happening. Rothschild kids, Gates kids, all that shit. They're the only ones who are going to be detached enough from a reality. Because when they grew up, the world was already too small for them. These cunts. Is there anything worse than like a person you meet who like vacationed in like Europe frequently as a kid? I don't think so. It's like they couldn't just go to Canopy Lake Park or Florida like a normal kid, and they like frequently went. They're like, I've been to 17 different countries. I've been to 22 different countries. I meet kids in college. I'm like, I don't want anything to fucking do with you. You're weird.
I have my own private yard in the Mediterranean.
I remember when I met a guy who's like, I've been to all 50 states. I was like, that one's not even a bragging point. I was like, you visited a lot of shitty places.
Oh, that's like a college road trip, no joke.
Yeah, well, no, but I feel like the ideal number of states to have been to is like maybe like 19.
19.
Yeah, I think you've hit all the hot spots at that point. I don't think you're gonna want to have to go to all 50 states. You're gonna have to go to Montana. You're gonna have to go to Wisconsin. You're gonna have to go to both Dakotas. You're gonna have to go to Delaware.
Both Virginias.
Seems very unnecessary. Yeah, seems very unnecessary. So those are the kind of people, just generational wealth. They already thought the world was too small for them, and they just don't see anything completely strange or wrong about going to space. And then it gets a little bit harder to breathe, and, people are starting to get a little feisty because drinkable water becomes a little scarce. Starts to become more expensive per gallon than gasoline. Then it becomes, why don't we just take all of our drinkable water and why don't we just stay at the space hotel? Why don't we just live there? Why don't we just live there and watch them rot? Maybe they'll get a big telescope on there so that they can zoom in on their favorite city and watch the poor people struggle to survive.
Oh, look at them. Why don't the poor people just buy more money?
Yeah, they should be buying it more. Well, I imagine once the elites leave, they're the people kind of enforcing the whole money is what the world is about thing. So it won't be good. I don't think that removing our economic structures will immediately result in let's all share and hold hands in a field. I think whoever has guns or weapons is just going to just start fucking taking everything they can. I mean, at the end of the day, it's really all about protecting your family. Most people, that's the primal instinct. That's why those cunts were up in the space hotel in the first place. Maybe they'll even fit the space hotel so that I can travel through space. Although, I don't know. Seems like there's a lot of dunderheads involved with this project. I don't know. I think maybe if I work well and I maybe delete some tweets, I do have a chance of getting a weekend comedy gig on the space hotel. I get up there.
Strange distress calls on the far side of the moon. What's up with that?
I'd say, so I grew up on Earth. Anybody else? And, then they wouldn't laugh because they're all on some sort of weird designer drugs that only rich people come that I can't even pronounce. So, fuck it. I don't know how long I'd be able to take that.
Imagine getting high in outer space. That would be too much.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's already going to be too much the way that your brain processes the fact that you're looking back on Earth from outer space.
It's like you ever have that dream?
Maybe, but then eventually, you're there for a week, you get used to it. And again, I'm talking about people who are really, they're already not on the planet. So going to space, yeah, fuck it. That's how they kind of feel about it.
Okay, have you ever had that nightmare about swimming in a big ocean, surrounded by nothing? And then just look down, there's that giant Earth, like, oh shit, I really am. And
I have not had that specific nightmare. No, I don't think so.
No, you just swim and there's no up or bottom to the ocean. It's just pretty much you're in a giant universe full of giant open water. You never had that nightmare?
No.
Oh, it's
no. I have that I have to run away from someone a lot and I can't run, I don't go anywhere. I got the punching one where it's like you're trying to fight someone, but the punch doesn't
register.
It's like it stopped registering when you were pulling it back. It's like an underwater punch. Teeth falling out. Apparently that one's really common. No, never an endless ocean.
What about trying to fly?
I've had the sky is falling. Trying to fly, yeah. Those ones, it's always you think you're in control and you think, is this a lucid dream? But then you wake up and it's like, well, and was I in control or was that just the dream? Was the dream, part of the dream, me thinking I was in control? You never know. We'll wax philosophical, but the point is,
space hotels.
If you're a fucking billionaire and you find out that other billionaires are going to space and you know they're gonna fucking come and talk about it at the next like Bohemian Groove when you sacrifice a child and eat its organs or whatever it is that goes on those things. I'm thinking recently bestiality. I think there's got to be a lot of that. Everyone's very leaning into the pedophilia. That can't be the only thing that's going on. I bet they're fucking some goats. Fucking some goats.
Cats and dogs fucking together.
Yeah, well, no, they're forcing the cats and dogs to have sex while they masturbate in the corner. That's kind of what I'm getting. They're burning things in effigy. I think we can all agree that no matter what's going on, things are being burned in effigy. Man. I don't know why that's like an entry-level cult thing, but there's gotta be an effigy. Even in lighter cults, like the Catholic Church, they all, on Easter Sunday, they make everyone hold a candle. There's incense involved. So that's like kind of a light effigy.
Yeah, but you're supposed to eat Christ in effigy.
No, that's not an effigy. That's like reverence. Effigy is like bad. Like you burn like a people like make up Donald Trumps and burn those in it. Like they make like scarecrows that look like Donald Trump, but they burn those in effigy. Maybe it was igniting. There used to be a website for the KKK. I don't know if it's still up, but on one of the About Us page, it said, "Common misconceptions. We don't burn the cross. We ignite the cross as a symbol to Christ's love."
His burning love.
Yeah. It's like, we don't drag people. We bring them places. We bring them places, and yeah, sometimes when they get there, they're dead because they scraped up against rocks. That was the test of Christ.
Sometimes it's not our fault.
I don't know. Let's go.
I'd be
doing jokes at the Space Hotel Comedy Club, like, "This is a good beer, but I could have sworn back on Earth it was heavier." Guys, it was heavier back on Earth. Is this thing on? No? Oh, am I about to be shot into space because you guys don't like my act and I'm the help, so I'm considered dispensable? Okay. Yeah, God forbid. The kind of person they get to do that, I'm thinking there's this guy who is a horrible person on Twitter, and people are finally kind of turning on him, although it might not last. His name on Twitter is Brooklyn Dad. I don't know what his real name is. He has chosen to identify as Brooklyn Dad. All he ever does is tweet like the total middle of the line corporate establishment Democrat opinion. But he's a dad from Brooklyn. So how corporate can he be, guys? His name is Brooklyn Dad. He opened up an account on the app and they said, "What name do you want?" And he wrote Brooklyn Dad. So not only is he from Brooklyn, which is a place that people find relatable, even if you're not from there, you're aware of his existence of a place. So that's good. And he's a dad? He's a dad. Yeah. Kids. Like the things that we care about because they're kids and we want a better future. So if this guy who's from Brooklyn, who's a dad, hates any sort of progress happening in this country, then that must be bad. He has that stupid, this is the thing that really obnoxious people do. It's like, I support candidates who are only worth over $100 million. And in my bio, I put #resist. It's like, what are you resisting? Progress? Shut the fuck up. Resist. They do the whole blue wave emoji. Like, that was like a 3 years ago thing. When the fuck was that? I don't know. It was whenever I did meth. That was the blue wave year. I remember I did meth in Las Vegas. I got on a plane. I came back, and I was so tired from the meth, I almost slept through the voting. And I woke up and voted at the last minute. And that was the blue wave. So I remember it fondly. And, who am I to judge? I didn't have any coffee today. I think that's why I keep vocally flubbing. But I'm just a guy yes, I have a 401k, and yes, I've done meth. We exist, and we want representation, folks.
We want representation. We want Hell's Kitchen, Dad.
We don't want to have sex with dogs because that's what Tommy Loren does. She has sex with dogs. I have it on good accord that Tommy Loren has sex with dogs, Labrador retrievers to be specific. And then after she's done, she eats them. She doesn't cook them either. She just goes right in there. She likes the fur. She says it's kind of like an antacid to her. So, look, you can't libel me for this because no one's going to listen to it anyway. But let's just all accept And now previously on the show, I said that I didn't think Tommy the Wren was a real person. I thought she was a corporate entity. I was half right. She is kind of like a corporate Frankenstein, that a corporation got together and they kind of put this woman together and they released her into the world, and she kind of like lives and breathes and has some characteristics of a human being, but she has downsides that they just simply cannot contain. Like Rupert Murdoch is on the phone with the fucking kennel every week. It's like, we need a purebred Labrador Retriever or Tommy's not going to do the show, okay? You know, you go backstage at that show, it's a bloodbath. That's the whole show. It's just she's back there. You know, she does it before hair and makeup, obviously, so they can, you know, wipe the fur and the blood off of her face. But, and, you know, that's where my horny uncle gets his news from. And again, all Tommy the Wren would have to do is be like, hey, I met a Mexican guy once. He held the door for me. Pretty nice. And then Fox News would be, again, equal with CNN. That's what we're dealing with here. You know who's probably going to be on the Space Hotel as the earthly kingdom shatters and you know, falls into the mire and the oceans boil? I bet the royal family will find their way there. I bet they'll be there. They will be upset, though.
So what's the deal with the whole royal family right now? I saw it in the paper.
I'm not following it very closely because, well, what I will say is, so obviously social media very bad for you. It's very bad. It basically burns holes in your brain. I say it's a lot like ecstasy. You think you're connecting with people, but actually burning holes in your brain. One good thing about social media, though, is that you can remind yourself that you're not actually that big of a loser, because you might go on social media and then see that people you know who you thought were, you know, doing well in life follow the Brooklyn dad and they like his tweets and actually find him funny. So then you're like, okay, well, actually, you know, these people may have children and a house and a dog and, you know, more money than I do and seem happier, but clearly I'm doing better than they am because I'm not following the Brooklyn dad. So, and one of those things is that when you see people, American adults who follow the royal family, you're like, okay, well, I guess I'm not like I might be a loser, but I'm not a fucking loser because I don't follow the royal family's events. Unfortunately, that's been a bit inescapable today. Most of the time, it's like outfits and bullshit like that, which is, you know, when you get into like pedophile rings, that gets a little bit interesting, but it's very dicey. You know, there's conflicting sources of information. Basically, what happened is, you may know that the Prince Harry, Princess Diana's son, is married to an American actress named Meghan Markle, who some claim is a black woman, an African American. I'm not really sure I buy that, but apparently she is. I guess she might be half black or maybe a quarter. She definitely doesn't look black at all. She looks like a white lady, maybe like a little bit tan, but
maybe Italian.
But apparently, like that, even the fact that she doesn't look black is not enough for the fucking pasty. First of all, the queen's husband has darker skin than she does because he had turned like this weird ghoulish gray, like, you know, like in movies where the bad guy like steals some kind of artifact and he's like, you cannot match my power now. And they're like, you gotta put it down. It's destroying you. He has like that kind of skin. It's just like eating away and making him gray. So much darker than she is. No contest. She's probably got more like hues of brown, but in terms of actual darkness, he's clearly has a darker shade of skin. You know, I don't want to get too much into the whole skincare debacle, skin pigmentation debacle here, but so then they had a baby after they got married, and apparently, unsurprisingly, the royal family was upset that perhaps a baby in the bloodline of the royal family would have too dark of skin. And then you look at the baby and it looks like fucking a pasty, you know, red-haired, you know, piece of shit like they are. So it wasn't a concern, but then apparently the family themselves was also feeding information to the press. The press in Britain is like, people are very okay with the press being like openly racist about that kind of stuff, and they have there's even like slurs which sound like weird sing-songy words to us. You don't even, because it's hard to tell if a Britain person is being racist, because a British person might be like, "Oh, I got a bunch of Tom Tinklers moving next door," and then they'll be like, "Oh, well, maybe if you ever need a pedicure or a manicure, they'll be able to take care of you." And you don't know if Tom Tinker is a word for like literally just a person who does pedicures and manicures, or is it a slur against Vietnamese people? You don't know, because they have stupid slurs. But apparently a lot of their stupid slurs are still considered pretty offensive by black people in England, and they're just like allowed to use them in the press. So they were saying all this like racist shit about that baby. So they left and came to America a few years back, and then I guess they went on Oprah to complain. Because what we really need is rich people to, complain about how hard it's been for them. I'm not going to be like, maybe she said she had a lot of suicidal ideation, and then there's people out there being like, "No, she didn't." And I was like, well, probably. I mean, I don't know. Maybe. Anthony Bourdain killed himself. Like, I don't doubt that if I were anyone in that amount of public spotlight is likely going to have a lot of suicidal ideation or anxiety in general. So anyways, now they're great and they're Americans now, I guess, and that's the end of the story. And people are very shocked to hear that the royal family might be racist, even though they totally murdered Princess Diana because she was dating a Muslim guy. I don't know how they let that one slip over their head. Starts dating a Muslim, and then all of a sudden she forgets how to drive or something. Whatever the official story was. I know it's not true. Whatever it was, pretty suspect. So, yes, but apparently we're supposed to shit ourselves at the revelation that the royal family might be concerned about a baby's skin tone. I don't know. I don't make the rules. I don't make the rules, folks. I don't make the rules. Will there be people with different shades of skin in the Space Hotel?
Maybe.
I would probably say yes. We got like the Africans with the emerald mines and, a lot of wealth all over the place. I don't think the Space Hotel is going to be like America only. It's too boring. There's not enough interesting people in America. Really, there's no interesting billionaires at all, except for maybe like Richard Branson. He's kind of a goof. But they're gonna have to learn to get along, that royal family.
Yeah, but Elon Musk smokes weed.
He did once, but he refused to do it or Joe Rogan refused to let him the most recent time, I think, because it's not legal in Texas where they are. But he moved to Texas for the freedom. Means money, no freedom. His favorite plant is literally a misdemeanor or a felony, depending on how much you have. But whatever. Gonna be a big downgrade. Imagine that. Just at Buckingham Palace, trashing Buckingham Palace, raiding the royal wine cellar, or whatever kind of bullshit they have, drinking, Prince Andrew's scotch that he was saving for the next time, a high school had spring break. And, just trashing the shit out of it while the royal family and all the other elites of the earth have migrated to the Space Hotel. And who knows what's going on in there. But it ain't good. So I guess we'll just take our chances here on Earth, Dave. Good night, folks. It's going to be a short one.